The PC classic System Shock 2 is now 25 years old. And with that occasion comes the long-awaited Nightdive Remaster. And yes, it is worth your time.
This is Xerxes. Please report any unauthorized database interactions to your direct superior.
What is it you fear?
The end of your trivial existence.
So when it comes to a remaster of a game, typically there's three things that at least I would like to know. One is, what is this version offering that is not available in the original? Two, is this version worth paying for over the original? And three, does the game itself still hold up in 2025? I'm going to answer all these questions, but to get it out of the way first, this is not necessarily a review of System Shock 2 the game. Just know that this is one of my favorite games of all time, and I highly endorse you should play System Shock 2. For those who don't know, System Shock 2 is one of the granddaddy of immersive sims, along with games like Deus Ex. If you like BioShock, it's by the same people and it has a lot of the same themes and storytelling devices, you would like System Shock 2. If you liked 2017's Prey by Arcane, well, that game is just basically a spiritual successor to System Shock 2, and guess what? If you like that game, you're gonna love System Shock 2, so you should play System Shock 2 if you haven't.
What about like Freedom Fighters? Because that was made by
I didn't play that one. Kurt, you want to ramble about Freedom Fighters?
Freedom Fighters is a real-time strategy game based on Jack Kirby's art. Ken Levine, Irrational Games, they did it. No one talks about it. I like it.
Thanks, Kurt.
Why do you go so slowly? Do you think this is some kind of game?
So yes, you should play System Shock 2, but should you play the 25th anniversary remaster? Because technically, you can already play System Shock 2. It is available on all major PC digital storefronts. In fact, I just replayed the game like 2 months ago, and it worked beautifully. Except I had to put a few mods on the game to make it work, and that's kind of the thing, right? You know, you can play the original game as is, but to really have like what I'd consider to be a good experience, you need to install a couple pretty essential mods that fix a couple of gameplay systems, fix the audio, and also allow for like modern resolutions. Not really a big deal, especially if you're used to modding a game, but it's still a thing you have to do and a thing you have to know you need to do. The whole advantage of something like a Nightdive remaster is that it just works out of the box. And for a PC game that's 25 years old, I really cannot stress how important that is. Just having a game that functions when you play it. And for people who have never played System Shock, they're not gonna go and mod the older version. So yes, just like the fact that there's a version now that you can play without having to put in any work, already a positive for game preservation and for this game in particular. So yeah, I think it's a good version to play. But, fun fact, this new version does have mod support. So if you do want to mod it, you can. And also like they worked with a lot of the SS2 community that's like been like keeping the original game alive for years in this project. So like this really has been like a collaborative effort. So I think like purely just like it's a win for the community, it's a win for this game. It's just you feel good. You feel good. You're supporting something that's keeping this game alive. Now, everything I just said is pretty much directed at PC players. Here's the thing. The remaster is also coming to consoles, which is a first for System Shock 2, which is pretty cool. And because of that, the game has controller support, which is a first for System Shock 2. And because of that, I decided, well, I've played it before on mouse and keyboard. I'm gonna play the entire game with controller to see how that experience is. It's not great, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be. Let me explain. So when you're just walking around, interacting with objects, combat, controller support works exactly as you think it would. It's only when you open up the menus that things get kind of messy. For those of you not familiar with it, System Shock 2's menus are designed to feel like a PC interface. So using your mouse to click through menus, scroll, all that good stuff. It makes a lot of sense when you're using a mouse and keyboard. They did not redesign any of the menus for controller, so you will be using the triggers to thumb through different menus. You're going to be using A and B to like go in and out of menus. It's as messy and cumbersome as it sounds. The first 30 or so minutes with the controller support was really rough. I had a very difficult time with it, and I did not know if this was going to be something I could do for the entire game. And this was coming from somebody who already is familiar with System Shock 2's menus, which do take a second to kind of adjust to and understand. I cannot imagine how incredibly difficult and off-putting it would be for somebody who has never played System Shock 2. Isn't that right, Kurt?
I played that thing for 16 minutes on the Steam Deck using controller support. I had a headache. My eyes went blurry. I just put it down. I'm not doing it that way. But I did play it the moment I put it on PC, the moment I like booted up on PC, I was like, oh yeah, this makes perfect sense.
Yeah, right?
You click on these things and move around.
I will say, I did eventually get over the hump. I was able to adjust to the way the controller worked, and I did beat the entire game on a controller. And I would say it was not as painful of an experience as I worried it was going to be. Like, I was able to beat the game fine. So I don't think this is a terrible experience, but again, I do think it's a very off-putting one that could have been a lot stronger. It would have been really nice if they were just completely redesigned that interface specifically for controllers. I think that's the best way they could have done it. I understand that that is either outside the scope of what this remaster was, maybe it was too complicated to implement to an old game, or maybe Nightdive just made the decision to not mess with the original game and preserve it as much as possible. All valid reasons, if so, but I do think it is a huge bummer, especially for people on consoles where you do not have the luxury of just saying, well, I'm gonna switch over to the mouse and keyboard because that's better. Like, you have to play it on controller. So if you do decide to play this game, I caution you if you're gonna pick it up on console. Just be aware the controls are not the best and they do take a learning curve. If you're able to play the game on PC, that really is the ideal way to experience it, in my opinion. As a quick aside, I do want to mention I played the game on my Steam Deck. I ended up playing the first half of it on desktop with a controller and then the second half on the Steam Deck. And the Steam Deck actually, because of the fact that you can rebind the controls, adds a lot of really great features that I actually think made it a really fantastic experience. So here's what I recommend. Go into the Steam controller settings and set the right trackpad to mouse, and clicking on the right mouse pad to left mouse button, and then clicking on the left mouse pad to right mouse button. Trust me, it makes sense. Doing this essentially gives you a really good hybrid version where you can play the game normally with a controller, have that normal controller experience, but then when you pop up a menu, you can just use a trackpad to quickly cycle through stuff with the mouse. It feels really good. Honestly, I think it's a really fantastic way to experience the game. So if you decide to play the game on the Steam Deck, I highly recommend that. I also recommend you set the back buttons to quick save and quick load. System Shock 2 is a pretty old game, and old PC games tend to, in my opinion, rely pretty heavily on quick save and quick loading. If you use them regularly, you'll have a much better time, so you should definitely do that. Because, weird thing this game does, you cannot bind quick save to the controller, which is really weird. And I think is also a pretty big detriment to the console versions, because I guess those versions just won't have quick save and quick loading, which I think is going to be a big detriment to your enjoyment of this game. Oh, also, random other thing, Nightdive, I'm looking at you here. On PC, you can't bind anything to the F keys. You could do that in the original game. That's a weird oversight. That should probably get fixed in a patch, please. Thank you. Anyway, long story short, Steam Deck, great way to play this game. It looks great, it runs great. Highly recommend it. Okay, so obviously the big selling point of a remaster is remastering the way the game looks, the visuals, the upgrades. This has all the classic Nightdive isms that you kind of come to expect if you're familiar with their remasters of games. One thing they do that is lovely, they did this with Star Wars Dark Forces, is they remade all of the old 3D cutscenes, but made them look exactly how they looked back then. They look gorgeous, they're wonderful. Huge fan of that. Everything else about the game has been touched up. The biggest you'll notice is the weapons. The weapon models are brand new. They have nice little new animation flourishes, like you can like cock the pistol, the shotgun, you actually pump it now. Also, you actually hold it with 2 hands anymore instead of one-handing it like in the original, which is more realistic and has like better feedback, but I gotta be honest, there's something about the fact that you one-handed the shotgun in the original that I just like, it's so 1999, and I do kind of miss that a little bit. But overall, I would say these animation improvements are great, and it does give better feedback to the combat, which is really important. Everything else has been touched up as well. Enemies, character models, they actually added mouth movements to some of the characters, like the little ghost apparitions when they talk, their mouths will actually move. Really nice touch. They did not do that in the original at all.
The only beauty in that meat you call a body.
If you value that meat, you will do as I tell you.
My biggest point I would have to make about the visuals is that at first glance, it didn't feel that much different from the original game, which again, I had just played 2 months ago. I was like, yeah, this looks like higher res, but about the same. Only when I started to directly compare them did I realize like how much had been touched up and changed, and I consider that a good thing. It means Nightdive did an excellent job of preserving the visual like language and identity of System Shock 2, which is incredibly important for a remaster. This looks like System Shock 2 as it should. It just looks nicer. It's the highest compliment I can give to Nightdive. I think they always do a fantastic job, and they continue to kill it with this one. Another thing Nightdive does really well is they'll try and package as much sort of history and goodies into their games as possible. So there is a vault now where you can check out just everything you could possibly think of. They have unprocessed voice lines, they have concept art, they have old trailers for like when the game was first shown with just the sickest music that from a band you've never heard of.
It was so inappropriate.
It does not match what that game is at all. One of my favorite things they added in this vault is they have the entire Prima strategy guide for System Shock 2, which I actually used a few times while playing because I was like, wait, where do I go to pick up this one thing? And so I would just like save my game, load into the vault, open up the Prima guide in the game, and then be like, go over to the page and be like, oh, okay, cool, I have to go there, and then load back in. So if you get stuck in this game, just go to the vault and open up the Prima strategy guide. That's cool. I like that. And finally, perhaps the biggest thing about this remaster is they put in System Shock 2's multiplayer. Did you know System Shock 2 had a multiplayer?
What is this? What is this? These chemicals? Oh my god.
I can shoot. Okay, that's enough.
I never got to experience it myself because by the time I played System Shock 2, that multiplayer was long dead, not functional, not something I could really get working on my PC without way too much effort that I would, and who would I even play it with? But now they brought it back, which is just, I had to imagine so much work. I mean, the thing, it has crossplay, which I did not test, but that's cool. You can crossplay System Shock 2 in 2025. What a time to be alive. How does the multiplayer work? Well, it's just the single player game, which you can play it with up to 3 other friends.
God damn it.
Oh god.
Yeah, you.
If I have to be honest, it's cool. I think it's an awesome feature. It is not something I would recommend as your first time experience with System Shock 2. Kurt can attest to because I roped him and Jake in to test it out with me, and neither of them had ever played System Shock. I am so sorry.
It was all on. I had no idea what was happening.
Is that a bad guy?
Oh, god damn it. And I'm gonna die. And I'm gonna die. My health is 4. And I have no weapons.
Also, wait, like there's like I had like special powers apparently. I
Yeah,
had like a
yeah.
ball, and that like psi powers, and there was no I had no idea how to change those things. And you were like, hey, you have the power, and I'll go pick up that item over there. And I was like, no, I don't, because apparently I used all my points. But I would say I could see it being cool if I knew what I was doing.
Exactly. That's kind of my point. So, like, I think System Shock 2 is a slow-paced game. It requires you to read audio logs, to pick up context clues to know where to go. You need to soak in the environment and pay attention.
I can't raise anybody down in engineering. With the lifts out, I'll need to get down there through the emergency conduit in the Psi Annex. I think the access code is in Watts' lab.
All things that go completely out the window when you're playing with friends and you're goofing around. So if you need to be considerate in how you're playing this. If you're playing it with a bunch of friends who already know System Shock 2 and are willing to sacrifice some of that kind of slower immersion storytelling for the sake of just having your own fun little like experiences, I think it's really cool. I think it's awesome. And I think there are going to be a certain group of people that are going to really have like a fantastic time with this multiplayer. But again, maybe not your first time playing the game.
Can you stop?
So yeah, I mean, that's Nightdive's remaster of System Shock. I think I've hopefully sold you pretty well that yes, you should play this, especially if you've never played System Shock 2. And if you have played System Shock 2 and you love System Shock, I would say this is probably worth getting. It's a huge love letter to this game. It's a version of this game that you know is going to run on modern systems for the foreseeable future. As I said up front, this is not a review. I highly recommend it. I will caution first-time players that, you know, it's a 25-year-old game. It is not perfect. No game is. You're gonna have some learning pains. You're gonna need to respec your character probably multiple times because you're gonna mess it up. And then, I mean, yeah, like, you know, like the combat obviously isn't as polished as you would expect from more modern shooters. The ending is a little bit rushed, things like that. But like, hey, these are all complaints that have been levied against this game for years, but Nightdive didn't change any of that because this is a remaster, not a remake. And the point of this was to just preserve the original experience. So yeah, I mean, if you know, all those changes, that's for the remake. Am I right, Nightdive?
This is Xerxes. Please report any unauthorized database interactions to your direct superior. Remember, a smooth operation is everybody's responsibility.